Thanks for joining us today on Polk Salad.
We've started the season and had 2 great shows.
Great idea. That's smart.
And we've just settled in quite nicely.
Welcome to another edition of Polk Salad. It's the beginning of February. Valentine's Day is just around the corner. We have a special Valentine for you today. 3 local volunteers who've been here a long time and done a lot for our community, 20, 30, 50 years. I can't wait for you to meet them. We'll be right back. Greetings, we're here with Pat Jaffer, a familiar face in Monmouth. She's been very active in so many ways, and we're going to find out a little bit more about her. Welcome, Pat.
Hi, Susan. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. Thank you for coming on. Now, I know of things in the paper, the Itemizer Observer I've been reading, where you have been active in Ella Curran Food Bank, and then you've recently given up that post.
Retired.
Retired. Yet you're still active in Neighbor Helping Neighbor.
Yes.
Yeah. So you are keeping your finger in.
Oh, yes.
Actively. Yeah. So tell us about the Neighbor Helping Neighbor. What does that program do?
Well, in the early 90s, 1990s, there was a depression or a lot of people that were homeless. And so a group got together to try to furnish housing. And we first took 2 duplexes that were here on the campus and established them in Independence. And then in about 10 years, we borrowed money and built apartments for low-income people. So that's what it is.
That's wonderful. And it's still going. And
Yes.
yeah, that's a terrific. You saw a need and you filled the need.
Well, not just me, but a lot of other people.
I know you were instrumental in it, and that's kudos.
Yeah.
Kudos to you. So the Ella Curran Food Bank was also a big part of your life. Tell us about that.
Well, back in 1977, there were a lot of people that were out of work and hungry. And Ella Curran was a woman in Independence, saw a need and started handing out baskets to people. And she died in 78. So a group of us got together and formed a food bank and named it Ella Curran after her.
Oh, nice. So it's been going since 78.
Right.
And it's moved a few times.
Oh, yes.
It's probably outgrowing its location.
Well, of course you
now,
could.
too.
You can always use more room.
Sure. Well, I think it's terrific. And you were also on the council for a number of years, the
Yes,
city
for
council.
8 years, yes.
8 years? Mm-hmm. So you show your love for the community in giving back, and I think that's wonderful. You have a different attitude, I think, that I see from others, where you have kind of a see a need and do it. You don't talk about it, you do it. and I've got a great example. I was reading this Columbus Day storm. They tell stories of the 1962 storm, and Pat told a story about going out and attempting to chop down a tree that she was worried is going to fall on the house or through a window. So does that tell me you're tenacious? You see a need, you do it. And
Well, I didn't get the tree down.
but you made the effort, and I'm very encouraged to see that there's somebody in town like you. So you've been here since '58. What brought you to town?
Well, my husband accepted a job at it was in OCE.
Yeah. How many times the name has changed?
Right, at least 4 times, I think, since we've been here.
A lot of people think that OCE is that's the one I hear most often. But
I think it was that the longest.
Oh, okay. Okay, and you have how many children?
5.
5. And how many of them live in town? Any of them?
Well, our youngest son lives out of Independence.
Oh, good.
But he's returned from the Navy after 20 years of service in the Navy, so he lives south of Independence, and he's the nearest one now.
Oh, good, good.
But he'd been overseas for 10 or 12 years, so it's kind of nice to have him back.
Yeah. You still keep active in the Democratic Party? Is that part of your repertoire?
Well, for 35 years, I was very active. And then, yes, I'm active, but not active like I was.
Peripherally, kind
Yeah.
of. Well, okay, so now I know you've taken time off from a couple of your things, and you are finding things to do to fill your days. Well, I know, and resting may be one of them. What are you doing?
Well, right now, my husband isn't too well, and so I'm staying a little bit closer to home. And I'm also looking at going back to the senior center and taking up some of the activities that I used to do because I just ran out of time and energy to keep up.
There are some fabulous things happening there. Is there one in particular that appeals?
Well, writing my memoirs.
Good.
I was in that for years, and then I just sort of dropped it, and so now I'd like to get back into it.
Yeah. Well, I read your story about the storm, and I think you've got a gift. I'm glad you're going to do that. That's really terrific. So you also head over to the ocean at times. Is that an annual thing, or as often as you can, or?
Well, we don't go too often, but on Christmas we have gone fairly often after Christmas because my son comes up from Santa Fe and brings his family, and that's a time to get together.
Oh,
and they're
good.
there. And then the others come over as they can.
Oh, good. That sounds very nice. Yeah. So, well, this is Valentine's coming up. We're in February, and I wonder if you have any big plans.
Not really. I don't know how much I'll get roll out. We usually have gone to Falls City. I don't know if you know that
sure,
they have a Valentine's dinner at the
Good.
Methodist Church there.
Oh, good.
But it's kind of up in the air this year.
Well, good. Yeah, I'm glad you're getting out. There is that seasonal affective disorder that affects a lot of us, and one of the cures is getting out. So
Right.
I bet you don't have a lick of. That's sad.
Not too much because I've usually been very busy, and so I'm trying to cut down on getting out.
Well, I had wanted this to be kind of a tribute to you because you've been so active and done so much. And we last month had Patty Nephew on, and she was bubbling over with enthusiasm for things you've done for the Ellicurn and all the other things. And I have a huge packet of newspaper articles that were on you. And so you've been doing a lot for the community for a long time, and we really appreciate it. You're one of those who makes Monmouth wonderful. So,
Well, thank you.
thank you for being on the program today. And we appreciate having Pat here and everything she's done for our community. Greetings, we're here with Kimber Townsend. She's a familiar face as well. She is more likely to be seen on Facebook. We get to find out ways that Kimber volunteers, and it appears that her Pay It Forward campaign is focused mostly on Facebook. Welcome, Kimber. Nice to see you. Thank you for coming on the show. I know of you because of the article in the Itemizer Observer, and they had said you did some terrific things over Christmas, or the folks through Facebook that you had contacted. So would you like to tell us a little bit about what you had done then?
Sure. So in past years, I've encouraged my kids to find ways to reach out to their peers or to families in unexpected ways. We think surprising someone with something is the best way to go. And I was assisting the senior class at Central High School with their Christmas tree sales and looking for creative ways to spark some sales on those trees, getting closer to Christmas. And so I issued a challenge out on Facebook and said, hey, if anyone wants to go buy their tree from the senior lot, that's great. But if you buy an extra and leave it there for me to pick up, then I'll pick it up and make sure it gets to a needy family that would not otherwise have a tree this year. And to kind of do a little double duty there. And that picked up pretty quickly, so we were able to get several trees. And then
good.
Reached out to other folks I know in the community working through the foster care network and such that were able to identify some good families that would not otherwise have a tree for their gifts that year. So.
And then that kind of snowballed into assisting with the electricity bill or the gas bill.
Yeah, I had a couple other folks ask me, well, that's a great creative idea. What are other ways? And so I sat and thought about that for a minute and, called the City of Independence and took a chance and just said, hey, out of curiosity, if someone wants to come in and say, I'd like to make an anonymous donation on a residential utility account that may be in danger of being disconnected during the holidays, could someone do that? And the answer was that absolutely, they absolutely could do that. And which just tickled me, because what fun is that,
Yeah.
And so so I put that post out and encouraged folks to go down and do so. And then just another great way for someone, I think I said I could imagine that stressed parent getting that bill and having a zero balance.
I know,
and
that's
calling the city
wonderful.
and saying, I think there's a
There's a
mistake.
mistake.
And no, it was paid. So.
Especially that time of year when your money is
Absolutely.
stretched so very thin.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's great. Well, I have a few quotes from people. And you've just described yourself very well. Bob Mason, the Independence Police Chief, said you're a driver for good. And so you see a need, you do it. And then Tino Banuelos, is he your brother-in-law?
He is,
Okay,
he is.
says, you have an energy I just don't know how to describe. And another said you're a hub person, somebody who, if you don't know what needs doing or who to contact, the who, what, where, when.
Right.
You know
I know
somebody who
someone who
does.
Yeah.
So that's great. That's
Yeah.
terrific. And is it mostly through your Facebook page?
Quite a bit through the Facebook page. I'm active in quite a bit of other stuff in the community, so groups, and I've grown up here. So, folks like Bob Mason and his wife Jen, I went to college here at Western with them. So some of these friendships have been very long-lived, and as we've all grown to become good doers ourselves, you retain that net and that reach and grow into that. And I think this community is blessed with an abundance of people who really like to reach out and help folks when there's an opportunity, and it's just matching them up.
When you see the good in people, you project that, and people rise to that.
Absolutely.
If you have a
Absolutely.
negative attitude, it won't get done. But your positive attitude really makes a difference.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about your younger years.
My younger years. Well, I had a pretty colorful childhood.
That's what we want to hear about.
My father was a Vietnam casualty in the Vietnam War when I was 2, and we were in California at the time. And my mom and her family moved up here to Oregon, up into the Mill City Gates area, kind of heading towards Detroit. And we actually lived in a hippie commune, so to speak. There were teepees and grew up that way until my school age years. So very much a community-based, childhood raising where everyone did their part for the greater good, and definitely instilled a love of nature and getting kids outdoors and experiencing
good.
simpler things.
So
growing up
it's
that
the
way.
old "it takes a village," but
Absolutely.
before the term became popular.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And we traveled quite a bit. I moved here to Monmouth Independence in 1985. It was the beginning of my sophomore year of high school, and it was the 13th time I changed schools at that
wow.
point. And so I firmly put my roots down there. I think I remember telling my mom if she moved again, she was going without me. That was it. And I've stayed here since, and I've never contemplated
Good.
anywhere else. So
Now you have a family that's
I do.
very active
I do.
in the community as well. Will you tell us about them, please?
Sure. My better half, David, is a volunteer firefighter for 22 years. He dropped down. He was an EMT also for 20 years, but has stepped down from that role as he's gotten older. His twin brother, Dell, also 21, 22 years in fire service.
Wow.
So they have a long-standing family tradition there as well. My eldest is a student here at Western.
Oh.
Going into the education program.
Didn't know
to
that.
be a
Oh,
teacher.
really? So she gets to see.
So my
or
oldest, my
he-
son, he,
He
yeah.
gets to see mom.
Yes, yeah. I think I see him a little more now that he's in college. There's that lunchtime every day. Hey, Mom, what are you doing for lunch thing?
And can I have a dollar?
Exactly. Where are you going? Can I go with you? Yeah. And then my daughter is a senior at Central High School.
Oh, okay.
And set to go directly into FEMA Corps is where she's hoping to go. She's currently on the National Youth Preparedness Council.
Wow.
And so she spent some time in D.C. with Craig Fugate and Timothy Manning and
Wow.
those folks working on some statewide projects to come back and do here this year. And then she'll report on those and maybe asked back a second year. But at this point, I
Wow.
think she's hoping to go straight into FEMA Corps and
That
right up
is-
the emergency track.
Isn't that interesting when somebody knows their track right
Yes.
from the get-go?
Yes.
Think of
Yes.
how many times we change our direction and, 6 or 7 times
Oh,
they
absolutely.
say, so for your
Absolutely.
major. So wonderful. That's good.
My youngest is in 8th grade at Talmadge. Right now, his mind is set on going into the military. A lot of time for that to change or not, but we'll see. We'll see.
Wow. So I know you work here at the university and in the education,
Yes.
College of
Yep.
Education.
Yep.
Do you, and you've been here a while,
It's been here 8 years. Yeah.
so that's your vocation, your avocation, the CERT.
The CERT program.
And that's Community Emergency Response Team. Tell us about that. I know you're super active in it.
Absolutely. I have been with the CERT program since 2001. I was a community policing volunteer with Independence, the City of Independence at that time, and helped out with several other projects. And we kind of decided to roll the Neighborhood Watch program then into a CERT model, making its way up from California.
Good.
And so I kind of stepped back for a bit. We had a really energetic gal who got that ball rolling for us, Lonnie Nicole, and at one point she moved higher up the chain in emergency management, and I was asked if I would take over the ball from her at that point. It's been a great experience. This is it's an empowerment tool for a lot of our community. It's a twofold goal. First is just to give the average citizen a chance to come learn how to be more resilient within themselves and their homes and their families. So if we do have a big disaster event, they have less need to reach out for external help. So it's really just community resilience. And then those who really like it and want to take it farther can join the team. And we do a lot of supporting of the police departments across the county. So Monmouth, Independence, and Dallas task us
good.
every year to assist with some of their big events. And we're beginning to look at more defined roles within Polk County Fire District
good.
now too, and ways we can support them. It's a volunteer program. Everyone's a
Wow.
volunteer, and we have folks that put in literally hundreds of hours every year. We tie them into the Presidential Service Awards program so they can get
good.
recognition for those.
Good. Because that's the thing. You may not get paid in monetarily, but other
And
things.
the recognition of your
Yeah.
peers is so important.
So you have been very active in that. I know the active shooter program at Central High. You did that.
Yeah, I was asked to do an active shooter exercise for them. I did one for Dallas last year
did
as
you?
well.
Okay.
And really my role in that is to sit on some planning sessions with our officers and school district personnel and the fire department and say, what do you want to test? What are the questions you have to answer? And then work with our exercise folks to develop a plan that allows that test to happen, right? That moment of truth to come about over the course of the exercise.
Good.
And then we have evaluators who come and say, okay, here's how you did on these targets and tasks, and that then drives another cycle of training for where they can train more and saying, okay, we did this well, so we can put
Good.
that to bed.
Good.
And so there'll be a follow-up at some point in the future and
Excellent.
recheck some of those. Yeah.
So the earthquake issue, have you been involved in that?
Yeah, that probably is one of the top 3 things that a CERT program has to be a part of. Definitely engage in conversations with our first responder agencies frequently heavily on their plans to respond post-Cascadia. Our county emergency management is tasked very heavily with planning for that, and I know they're actively engaged in things with the state and at the state level. There's a big test coming up in June, a statewide test called Cascadia Rising. And Oregon, Washington, all of our military, Coast Guard will be participating in a 3 to 4 day.
It's been getting a lot of publicity,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so I think people are aware.
Mm-hmm.
It's not one of those, oh, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody knows it's coming. Of course, we don't know when.
Right.
But I saw one of your quotes said, keep a chainsaw handy. Was that for the earthquake? Was that for a hurricane?
That was
that for
coming.
what?
Yeah, that was coming up on we had a high wind and rain event being predicted, and you know, as a coordinator of a response program, much like all of our chiefs have to consider is if I have a big weather event, we're a rural county. How many of my personnel will actually make it to me? Are they going to be, you know, are their homes going to be damaged and they're taking care of themselves, are roadways blocked, whatever the hurdle may be? And so when we get these high weather alerts coming out, my folks are already contacting me. Do you know if we're going to get called for something? What should we prepare for? And so I start to send those coaching measures saying, if we do and the wind blows down trees, you're going to need to clear the road. So get your chainsaw ready and warmed
so
up.
that
and
was it. It's
so
not
you get yourself
like,
out.
Not like me who doesn't have a chainsaw. But I've got one of those.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
Take a while.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on the
Absolutely.
program today. You've
Absolutely.
made a huge difference in the community.
Thank you.
And I
Thank
know
you.
we all appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Greetings, we're here with Cece Koontz. She's a neighbor and a friend, and I'm so happy that she's agreed to come on our show to talk with us. We're doing our program this month on volunteers, the Valentine volunteers, and when I chose the theme, Cece is the person who came first to my mind. And I'm going to tell you why, but you may already know. She's volunteered in our area for over 30 years and is active in so many things. So welcome, Cece. Thanks for coming.
Well, thank you, Susan, and thank you for taking up and hosting this program. It's really valuable to let folks know what's going on in our community, and we don't have a lot of outlets for that, so really appreciate Western and WMPEG, the partners in getting this program put on. So thank you.
I thank you. Well, the idea is to promote our community, and I think that having people who make it such a special place and interviewing those folks are the ones that make it a good show. So
Great.
Thank you for coming on. Okay, so enough backpacking.
That's right.
Patting. We have things that Cece does, and I'm going to just rattle them off. She is the treasurer for the Monmouth Independence Community Foundation. She is on the finance committee for the Monmouth Independence Chamber of Commerce. She is a board of trustees for Western Oregon University. She's been active in Pinnacle Theater for 25 years. She has been a city councilor for Monmouth from 2010 to 2014. She is just such a busy gal around town, and she knows everybody. The other thing I wanted to be sure to mention is that in 2012, Cece received the First Citizen Award from the Monmouth Independence Chamber of Commerce. So, now how do you feel? Are you blushing?
Well, I am a little bit. It's all a surprise, right? You just don't remember how you got to those positions and how that all happened. It feels like, okay, well, then I did this and that happened, but it's kind of funny to hear it all.
Yeah, and I didn't mention the years that you were volunteering at Central, too.
Right.
When your daughter was in school there, and
Well, even before that, I actually, when you mentioned my first volunteering in the community, I didn't live here. I lived in Salem and worked in Salem, but in 1980, I started dating someone who was a teacher at the high school and happened to be a speech coach and then later the drama teacher. So immediately I got busy working with kids, helping out on the things and the activities, and got to know people in the community and in the district that way. And So that started. We didn't have our daughter till much later, about 10 years later, and so that was a chance to meet new folks and get to know the kids and their parents and start a whole new connection with the community. So
Good.
really fun in a lot of ways, but that was a pretty good solid 15 years of volunteering, yeah.
And I think mostly you seem to gravitate towards the financial end because you're gifted in that.
Thank you. Or I get stuck with the
Yeah,
financial end,
that's-
right? You know,
that happens
that's
too.
what you do
Anything
for a
but
living.
secretary, right?
Right. That's a little inside joke.
Yeah. So your daughter had said, "Mom, would you do something?" And you said, "Well, I'll do the money. I'll do the
I'll do the money.
something." That's how you.
I end up being on the board a lot. It started with, there's a cooperative preschool here in town that
Oh.
the parents have to volunteer and have to be involved. And I said, well, you know, the best thing to have me do is take care of the money stuff. And so
you know your talents, and
that's right.
you're also very much a people person. Too.
Well, that's the best part. The work is good and you feel the reward, but getting to know the people is amazing. And that was the best part about working on her school activities, is those parents go on and they volunteer in the rest of the community too. So that's how you get to work over and over again with those folks. And when you talk about volunteering and about really doing good, strong work, it's about the trust you develop with the people you're working with. And having had those experiences in our earlier years really builds the foundation for working together. I know you've met Marilyn Morton. Marilyn and I were co-city councilors, so she was an independence councilor and I was a Monmouth councilor. She's continued on. We have worked together at the chamber. We've worked together in so many activities, and we started as parents on the board of the cooperative preschool. So we met when our kids were 3. They are 26 now.
Yeah.
And we have worked together everything that we've done. We've found ways to connect with each other to support the effort, or we've just basically worked together to do it. So
Oh, that's wonderful.
that's the most important, is that
Yeah.
people, those people and the relationships, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I know you're of the mindset also. You see a need, you fill it. Oh, you know, there's an open storefront downtown. Oh, let's see, maybe we can put a store in there.
So that was interesting.
Tell
that
us about that one.
Yeah, when I worked at a bank here in town. I worked at what's now Columbia Bank, and I was on the Economic Development Commission. And I was good friends with Eric Olson, who had been one of my former husband's high school students. So I met Eric when he was in high school, and his wife Eve. And now, of course, he's got the Edwards Edition and a lot of downtown development. Eric has done amazing things for this community. His support and belief in it in tough times have really changed the face of this community in a lot of ways. And so on economic development, we were talking about, we need to get something going in downtown, and and he owned a building there. So I assisted, and we put in a retail outlet that was not only just straight retail, but allowed other artisans and other craftspeople in the community to sell their wares. So we ran that for a while until we all went, wait a minute, we didn't really need to be in the retail business. We all have other jobs.
But hopefully it met a need for a certain time, and maybe it led other people to go into that field, or...
Sure, it's been great, right, to see downtown come back. It's very vibrant right now, and so you feel like in 2010, when things weren't very strong, that maybe that did cause a little bit of an impetus.
Good,
But, yeah.
good. Well, you're one of the people who's made this community wonderful, and I am just in awe of how many people you know. She knows, Cease knows everybody. You can't go to a restaurant without her knowing the names of everybody. It takes her a half hour to get out of any place. She says hi to everybody.
Well,
Very
yes.
friendly.
Yeah, so basically my family and friends will tell you that's the main reason they don't like to go out with me. It is. And when I had a chance to move from Salem, thought about kind of changes in my life, And I thought, why not move here, right? This is the place where I do have those connections, where I have not only friends and people, but I have work I can do that's meaningful. And I know who to call to get things done if I need to. So when I moved here, it really was that opportunity to deep dive into the fabric of the community even more, right?
Yeah.
Just, helping with this or knowing this, but to really become engaged. And that's actually when as soon as I got here, basically, got invited to be appointed to an opening on the city council and then run for office. And that was great because I had just not seen it from that side. And a terrific experience, and I probably would still have run for another term on city council had I not had this other opportunity come up.
Yeah, so you work your position as business manager at the Central School District
Right,
is
and
what you're talking about.
Well, no. So
No?
I actually had that job, and that was a little bit difficult to balance because here I was with a very demanding schedule at the school district and city council. The thought of doing that plus when Mark Weiss approached me about joining the Board of Trustees of the university, first I said, so...
How many hours in a day?
No, I said, you must not know me, right? I thought you knew, why would you want me on the Board of Trustees? I mean, that was such a great honor. My connections, I had lots of friends. I, of course, knew people who worked here, partnered with the university, but I didn't realize that would be something that people would consider me for. So after he convinced me that, yes, he knew he was calling the right person, and that the board wasn't going to have to be considered large donors because that wasn't something I could contribute in a meaningful way, I said yes. And the thought of doing that, especially because it was a brand new opportunity, we'd never had trustees, and hiring a new president, the opportunity to really figure out how to move this university forward was so exciting. But I didn't know what that would entail at first. So that's why I chose not to run for another term on council.
I didn't realize that.
Until I sort of got a chance to learn this new world, because other than having my own degree, I didn't know much about higher ed. So.
And you have your fingers in so many things. I don't know how you find time to sleep. You're in so many things. We were in a foundation meeting, and Cease blew in a little bit late because she had been at a finance meeting for the Board of Trustees, and she's the treasurer of the foundation. So it was kind of like she's a wind that just carries through. So I have so much enjoyed having you on the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been great.
I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the community at large and things that you do for us.
Well, and we're so happy to have you, and welcome. It's been great getting to know you. I can't wait to see what great things we do together.
Yay! Thanks very much. We'll be right back. Thank you for joining us today. Weren't our guests inspirational? I really enjoyed getting to know them each a little bit better, and I hope you did too. You can see Polk Salad on Wimpeg YouTube, on MyNet public channels, and also our Facebook page, Polk Salad. We'll see you next time.